Hi everyone. Welcome to English Story School. Have you ever felt like you've hit a wall? Like you've given it everything you've got, but somehow you're still stuck? That moment where every ounce of you is questioning whether you should keep going or just give up. Well, imagine if I told you that there's no other option. No backup plan, no easy way out. Just one choice, do or die. What would you do? What would you risk to make sure you don't back down? Chapter 1. The Unavoidable Choice. Let me take you to a time when I was there too, stuck in that moment of despair, standing at the crossroads of my own journey. I wasn't just struggling, I was broken. I had fought and fought, but life had a way of throwing more punches than I could handle. Failure after failure. Rejection after rejection. Every door I knocked on slammed shut in my face like a cruel joke. It was as if the universe was telling me, "You're not good enough. You're not worthy enough to succeed." And the worst part? It made me start believing it. I was completely lost. I was standing in the ruins of my dreams, wondering if I had made a mistake in trying to pursue them in the first place. The weight of failure hung around me like an unshakable cloud, and I couldn't escape it. There were moments I felt like I didn't have the strength to even try again. The thought of getting up and facing more pain felt impossible. Every part of me wanted to just give up and let the world win. But here's the twist. It was in that darkest moment, when I thought all was lost, that I realized something so simple, yet so profound. There was no plan B. It wasn't a choice I consciously made, but a reality I had to accept. There was no fallback option. There was no, well, if this doesn't work out, I'll just try something else. No, the only thing left was to make it work. There was no escape, no retreat. I had to face the truth head on. Either I figured it out, or I was going to be stuck in this same miserable cycle forever. And you know what? That realization, as harsh as it was, became the turning point. There are moments in life when you face a decision so crucial that it feels like the universe is watching, waiting to see what you'll do. And this was mine. This was my defining moment. I could either crawl back into my comfortable, predictable failure, or I could make the decision to push forward into the unknown, with all the fear, uncertainty, and potential for even more failure that lay ahead. I chose the latter. At that moment, it wasn't about being brave or confident. Honestly, I didn't feel brave at all. I was scared out of my mind, but I knew that if I didn't take that step, if I didn't decide to go all in, I would be stuck forever. There was no turning back, no room for doubt, no looking over my shoulder at what could have been. I had to make it work, no matter the cost. You know what they say. When you have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain. That's exactly how I felt. I had no plan B. I couldn't afford to fail anymore, but even more, I couldn't afford to not try. So, with every ounce of energy I had left, I committed. I didn't look for shortcuts. I didn't seek excuses. I just chose to act. No hesitation. No safety nets. No backup. In the beginning, it felt like I was walking through mud. Every step forward was hard, and every mistake felt like a setback. But something started to change. I wasn't just fighting the challenges anymore. I was learning from them. Slowly but surely, I realized that every failure, every rejection, every painful moment was actually teaching me something I needed to know. And it was this learning process that gave me the strength to keep going. It's like that old saying, the road to success is never a straight line. There are twists, turns, and moments where you'll feel like you've lost your way. But when you make the commitment to do or die, something inside you shifts. You start finding solutions instead of excuses. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I do with this?" And here's the most important lesson I learned. You don't need all the answers. You just need to take the next step. At first, I thought I had to know exactly how it was all going to work out. I needed to have everything planned out, every detail perfect. But the truth is, life doesn't work that way. You can't control everything. You can't predict every challenge, but you can control one thing: your decision to keep going. Once I accepted that, things began to shift. It wasn't magic, it was persistence. The universe didn't suddenly make everything easy. It didn't provide me with a map or a guidebook, but it did begin to clear the fog just a little. Every small step forward felt like a victory. The more I kept pushing forward, the more I realized that the biggest obstacle wasn't the world around me. It was my own fear and doubt. And here's something else I want you to understand. When you have no other option, when you burn your plan B, the only option left is success. It becomes inevitable. Not because the road is easy or because you have all the answers, but because you no longer see failure as an option. You learn to use it as fuel instead of letting it stop you. It's this mental shift, this decision to go all in, that changes everything. The moment I let go of the idea that I had a safety net, that I had a plan B, the world opened up to me in ways I never imagined. The fear didn't disappear, but it lost its power. I no longer feared failure. I feared not trying. And that made all the difference. So here I was standing at the edge, with no fallback plan, no guarantees, but a deep knowing that this was the only choice I had. And I chose to go forward, to do or die. That was the beginning of my journey, the point where everything changed. The moment I realized that success wasn't a destination, it was the courage to keep going, no matter what. And that's the story I want to share with you. The story of how I went from nothing to something, and how you can too. Chapter 2. The first step, the leap of faith. So, there I was, standing at the edge. It felt like time had stopped for a moment, like the universe itself had paused just to watch me. I had to make a choice, the most critical decision of my life. On one side, I had the comfort of my misery, the familiar routine of failure, the predictability of my struggles. On the other side, I had the unknown, the abyss of uncertainty, the risk of falling flat on my face, the chance that everything could fall apart. It's easy to get comfortable in that familiar misery, isn't it? We tell ourselves, it's not ideal, but at least it's known. We convince ourselves that we'll make the leap next time or when we're ready. But here's the brutal truth. You'll never feel ready. Ever. If you wait for the perfect moment or for everything to line up perfectly, you'll be waiting forever. No one is ever truly ready to jump into the unknown, to take a leap of faith. I sure wasn't. I was scared out of my mind. I had no clue what would happen if I did this. I had no roadmap, no guarantees. But that's the thing. I had to burn my plan B because without it, there was no turning back. I remember the exact moment like it was yesterday. My stomach was in knots. My heart felt like it was going to explode out of my chest. And my mind? It was screaming at me, "You can't do this. What are you thinking? You'll fail just like every other time. Just stay where you are." That voice was so loud, it almost made me turn around and walk away. But then something happened. Something deep inside me, some quiet voice that had been building in the background of my thoughts, whispered back, "You've come this far. You have one shot, and if you don't take it, you'll regret it forever." And in that moment, I realized that the voice of fear, the voice that was telling me to stay comfortable, wasn't my truth. My truth was that I had to leap, not because I had all the answers, not because I knew exactly what was ahead, but because the alternative, staying where I was worse than jumping into the unknown. It was the risk of never knowing what could be, the risk of remaining in that cycle of fear, doubt, and failure forever. And let me tell you something. The worst thing that can happen is not failing. The worst thing that can happen is not trying. So I leaped. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't smooth. And honestly, it wasn't even pretty. The fear hit me like a brick wall. My heart raced as I felt the ground leave my feet. I had no idea where I was going or how it would end. But here's what I learned. The first step, the leap, is the hardest. It's the scariest, but it's also the most important. Because the moment you leap, you shift the energy. You shift your entire reality. You are no longer standing in the same place, waiting for life to happen to you. You've made the decision to make life happen. I won't lie to you. The first few steps were terrifying. The unknown loomed over me like a dark cloud, and I felt small, unprepared, and vulnerable. There were times when I wanted to stop and just go back to the way things were, to the comfort of knowing that failure was something I could at least predict. But something started to happen as I kept moving forward. The universe started to meet me halfway. Opportunities appeared that I never could have imagined. People came into my life who helped me, who guided me, who opened doors I didn't even know existed. It was like I had tapped into a force that was waiting for me to make the first move. That's the magic of leaping. When you decide to take that step, no matter how small it may seem, things begin to shift. And it's not just about luck. It's about aligning yourself with something bigger than yourself. It's about showing the universe that you're serious, that you're committed to making it work, no matter what. In those early days, there was no instant success. There were still challenges. There were still failures. But now, I was seeing them differently. Every challenge wasn't an obstacle. It was a lesson. Every setback wasn't a sign to quit. It was an opportunity to grow stronger. And with every new lesson, I felt more confident, more capable. And eventually I started seeing progress. Real progress. I began to notice the small victories. The first time I made a decision without second-guessing myself. The first time I took on a challenge without fear. The first time I felt like I was moving forward instead of spinning in circles. Those small victories started to add up, and each one built on the last. It was like I had unlocked a new level of growth. And here's the secret that no one tells you. The first step is the hardest, but it also builds the momentum you need to keep going. It's that first leap, the one that takes you from the familiar to the unknown, that activates the energy you need to push through the tough times. After you make that leap, after you prove to yourself that you can do it, it becomes a little bit easier to keep going. Because you've already proven to yourself that you're capable of so much more than you thought. That's the power of the leap. It's not just about where you land. It's about what happens inside you. It's about the courage you discover, the strength you never knew you had, the fire that starts to burn inside you as you realize that you can't be stopped. At that moment, I understood something fundamental. You don't need to know exactly how things will turn out. You just need to take that first step. That's the only thing you need to do. The rest will fall into place, but only if you take that leap. And you know what? The more I leaped, the more I realized that the fear never fully goes away. But here's the beauty of it. The fear doesn't hold you back anymore. You realize that fear is just a part of the process. It's a signal that you're growing, that you're on the edge of something amazing. And when you understand that, the fear becomes something you can use, something you can embrace. So here I am, looking back, and I'm so glad I made that first leap. I'm so glad I didn't wait for the perfect moment, because it wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And in that leap, I found the strength to keep going. The universe had moved with me, and I was moving with it. This wasn't the end of the journey. It was just the beginning. Chapter 3, the struggle, the fight within. Let me level with you for a second. After that leap, the one I thought would change everything, it didn't all magically fall into place. In fact, things got a whole lot harder. I thought the moment I committed, the world would start to unfold itself in front of me. But instead, I found myself face to face with the very thing I feared most, struggle. Doubt started to creep in. It wasn't loud at first, just a quiet whisper in the back of my mind, telling me that I wasn't good enough. Then it got louder, more persistent, like a voice that refused to be ignored. "What are you doing? This was a mistake," it said. And just like that, I felt the weight of the world pressing down on me. Rejection started showing up, knocking me back every time I thought I was making progress. I'd put myself out there, take a chance, and each time I felt the sting of rejection. People mocked me. They doubted me. They told me it was a waste of time. And there were moments, more than I'd like to admit, when I wanted to quit. When the weight of it all became too much to bear. I thought about throwing in the towel, finding a way out, going back to my old life where at least I wasn't failing in public. But here's the thing. When you have no plan B, you don't have the luxury of quitting. There's no fallback, no escape route. And that's exactly what kept me going. Because when you're all in, when you've burned the boats, you've only got one option: to keep going. This is where most people break. They hit a roadblock, and the first thing they do is look for a way out. They say, maybe this isn't for me, or it's just not working. But let me tell you something. If you're constantly looking for a way to escape the struggle, you'll never see what's on the other side. The struggle isn't something to be avoided. It's something to be embraced. Every challenge you face, every obstacle that stands in your way, is preparing you for something bigger. If you can't handle the pressure, the stress, the rejection, you'll never experience the rewards that come on the other side of it. I remember a specific time when everything seemed to be going wrong. It felt like I was stuck in an endless loop of failure. I was trying my best, but the results weren't coming. I was working harder than ever, but it seemed like every door I tried to open slammed right back in my face. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I hit rock bottom. I was physically exhausted, mentally drained, and emotionally wrecked. I was questioning everything. Was this really worth it? Was I just chasing some impossible dream? But in the midst of that chaos, something shifted. It wasn't instant. It wasn't a magical epiphany. It was just a small, quiet realization that I couldn't afford to back down now. I kept telling myself, if I don't do this now, if I don't give it everything I've got, I will regret it for the rest of my life. That thought, just the simple recognition that if I didn't push through this, I would carry that regret with me forever, lit a fire inside me. It became clear that the fight wasn't just external. It was within me. It wasn't about what was happening to me. It was about how I was responding to it. The world wasn't going to hand me success on a silver platter. If I wanted it, I had to fight for it. And so, I dug deep. I went into the trenches, mentally, emotionally, and physically. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. But every ounce of pain, every moment of doubt, every rejection, each one of those setbacks became fuel for my fire. I used to struggle to propel myself forward. I refused to let it break me. There's something powerful about pushing through the hard times, about choosing not to quit when everything inside you is screaming to give up. When you refuse to let the obstacles defeat you, something shifts within you. The more you push against the resistance, the stronger you become. And that's when I realized that the struggle isn't just a test. It's a gift. It's the universe's way of preparing you for greatness. If you can handle the weight, if you can withstand the pressure, the rewards on the other side will be worth more than you could ever imagine. But it's up to you to choose to stay in the fight. The truth is, the struggle never really stops. As I kept moving forward, I encountered new challenges, bigger obstacles. But each time, I looked back at the fight I had already won. I remembered how far I'd come, and that kept me going. Because in the end, the struggle wasn't just something I had to endure. It was something I had to embrace. And here's the ultimate secret. When you choose to fight through the struggle, you start to see the world differently. You stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks and start seeing them as opportunities to grow, to become stronger, and to sharpen your skills. Every battle you face is another step towards your ultimate victory. But let me make one thing clear. The struggle will never stop testing you. It will push you to your limits, and it will make you question everything. But here's the truth you need to hear. You can handle it. You are stronger than you think, and every time you push through, you'll emerge even more powerful. And so, I kept going. I kept fighting. Every single day was a battle, but I was learning, growing, and becoming who I needed to be. I didn't have a plan B, and that's why I couldn't quit. I knew that if I didn't push through the struggle, I would never experience the satisfaction of success. I would never see the reward on the other side. So I fought, and with each fight, I grew, and with each victory, I became stronger. Chapter 4. The Breakthrough, the Moment of Truth. Then, out of nowhere, something incredible happened. For the first time in what felt like forever, I began to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It was faint at first, just a small glimmer of hope, but it was there. It was real. I was growing. I was evolving. The person I was yesterday no longer existed. I had shed the old version of myself, the one who doubted, who feared, who hesitated. And the people who had once doubted me, the ones who had written me off as just another dreamer, started to take notice. They could see the change, the growth, the fire I had found within myself. But here's the kicker. The breakthrough didn't come when everything was perfect. Oh no, it didn't happen when I had it all figured out, when the road was smooth, and when success was handed to me on a silver platter. It came when I finally stopped waiting for everything to align, and I accepted the journey for what it was: a wild, messy, unpredictable ride. It was at that moment when I realized that perfection wasn't the goal. Progress was. And progress is messy. It's unpredictable, but it's also beautiful. For so long, I had been chasing an idea of success that was clean and linear. I thought there was a formula, a step-by-step process that would lead me to the perfect outcome. But the truth is, success doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. It's not about following a perfectly paved path. It's about navigating through the bumps, the failures, the missteps, and the unexpected twists along the way. The moment I stopped trying to control every detail and embraced the chaos, that's when things started to shift. That's when the magic started to happen. You see, the moment you stop focusing on how difficult the journey is and start embracing the challenges as part of your story, is the moment you begin to win. It's not the absence of obstacles that defines your success. It's your ability to face those obstacles head-on, without flinching, without backing down. I stopped looking for shortcuts because deep down I knew they didn't exist. I stopped doubting myself because I realized that self-doubt was the one thing standing between me and my breakthrough. Every failure I had experienced wasn't a setback. It was a lesson. And with every lesson, I took another step closer to my ultimate goal. At that moment, everything began to click. It was like I had been putting together a puzzle piece by piece, and now I could finally see the bigger picture. The failures, the pain, the struggles, all of them were the building blocks of my success. And I had to embrace each and every one of them, because they were part of my story. They were part of what made me who I was becoming. The truth I discovered was this: breakthroughs don't happen when you've got it all figured out. They happen when you've been through the storm, when you've fought your way through the chaos and the confusion, and you're still standing. Breakthroughs happen when you've finally surrendered to the process and accepted that growth doesn't come without discomfort. It comes with the willingness to move forward, even when you're scared, even when you don't know what's next, and even when things feel impossible. I remember the moment it all clicked for me. I was standing in the middle of one of the hardest moments I'd ever faced, when I was starting to see some success, but it wasn't guaranteed. It was still fragile. The doubt was still there, lingering in the back of my mind, whispering, "This might be it. This might be where you fall short." But I ignored it. I refused to let that voice dictate my next move. I had come too far, fought too hard, and worked too relentlessly to let it all slip away. I had burned the boats, and there was no turning back. And that's when it happened, the breakthrough. I realized that success wasn't an event. It was a process. It wasn't something that happened when all the stars aligned or when I'd finally reached the top. Success was the accumulation of every moment, every failure, every lesson, every step I had taken, even the painful ones. It was the result of the consistency, the persistence, the refusal to give up, and the willingness to accept the discomfort of growth. It's not that the road ahead suddenly became clear or that every obstacle was removed. No, the struggles didn't vanish, but I was different. I was stronger. I had learned to face the struggles head on, without flinching, and that gave me a new kind of power. It was no longer about waiting for the perfect moment or for everything to line up perfectly. It was about knowing that the journey itself was the reward. The battles I fought, the pain I endured, and the lessons I learned were all preparing me for what was to come. So, I took that moment, my breakthrough, and let it fuel me. I didn't let it be the final destination, because I knew there was more. There was always more. But that moment of realization, that moment when I finally accepted the process and the chaos, was the moment that changed everything. It wasn't a sudden stroke of genius or a magical fix. It was a shift in perspective, an acceptance of the journey for what it was, and a deep understanding that there is no linear path to success. It's all part of the ride. And let me tell you something. Once you stop fighting the journey, once you stop resenting the challenges, that's when you really start to win. The breakthrough is not a one-time event. It's the realization that you're on the path and you're moving forward, no matter what. And that is the most powerful place to be. Chapter 5. The Victory. No turning back. Now here I am, standing in front of you. The fight was long. It was grueling, but it was worth every ounce of energy, every drop of sweat, and every moment of doubt. Because today, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, there is no plan B. There never was. There was only one path, one choice, one plan A, and plan A works when you make it work. Think about that for a second. So often, we find ourselves hedging our bets. We create safety nets, telling ourselves, well, if this doesn't work out, I'll have something to fall back on. But what if there was no fallback? What if all you had was the path you chose to walk? No shortcuts, no detours, no escape routes. What if the only choice you had was to make plan A work, come hell or high water? That's exactly what I had to do. I remember those moments of doubt, standing at the edge of everything I had ever known, with only one way forward. And let me tell you, that wasn't easy. The fear, the uncertainty, the constant voice telling me to give up, to play it safe, to wait until things were perfect. But here's what I learned. It's never going to be perfect. If you wait for everything to be lined up perfectly, you'll wait forever. Success comes when you decide to go all in, when you make the decision that there is no turning back, no plan B, no safety net. It's a commitment to the process, to the struggle, and to yourself. And let me tell you, once you make that commitment, once you truly believe in the idea that plan A is your only option, something incredible happens. It's like the universe conspires with you. Doors start opening, people start showing up, and the strength you thought you didn't have begins to rise up from within you. When you commit to one path with everything you have, that's when the magic happens. I've seen this play out in the lives of so many people. It's the moment they stop giving themselves an easy way out. It's the moment they stop telling themselves, maybe tomorrow, or next time will be better. No, they say, this is it. This is my time. I'm all in. And when they do that, they unlock something inside them. They tap into a well of strength, of passion, of fire that pushes them past their limits, past their doubts, past everything that would have held them back. The funny thing is, the moment you let go of the safety net, that's when you start to soar. You see, when you make the choice to bet on yourself, No backup plans, no soft landings. That's when you begin to tap into your true potential. You find the courage to take on challenges you never thought you could overcome. You unlock the kind of power within you that you never knew existed. And that's when the magic happens. I know it sounds dramatic, but trust me, this isn't some fairy tale. This is real life. And real life doesn't work in perfect little packages with neat little bows. Real life is messy. It's unpredictable. But that's where the beauty lies. That's where the breakthrough happens. When you stop fighting the journey and embrace it fully. When you stop looking for the easy way out. You become unstoppable. The world has a way of testing us. It's like the universe is asking, how bad do you want it? And when you prove to yourself that you're all in, when you show up every single day, no matter what, that's when the magic begins to unfold. It's like the pieces of a puzzle that you couldn't figure out suddenly start to click into place. And that's the moment you realize you're exactly where you were meant to be. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything is perfect because it's not. But here's the thing. The struggle, the pain, the setbacks, they're all part of the story. They're the fuel that propels you forward. Without them, you wouldn't have the strength, the wisdom, or the resilience to handle the success that's coming your way. Success doesn't come without a fight. It doesn't come without a willingness to endure, to push through the moments of doubt, to face the struggles head on. And when you make that choice to keep going, to not quit, to not look for an escape, that's when you step into the victory. So, where do you stand right now? Are you still waiting for the perfect time? Are you still holding on to that safety net? That plan B? Or are you ready to bet on yourself? Are you ready to say, I've got one shot at this, and I'm going to make it count? Because here's the thing. You have everything it takes to make your dreams come true. But it starts with you. It starts with your decision to go all in, to make plan A your only option, and to commit yourself fully to the journey, no matter how difficult or uncertain it may seem. You've got this. You have everything you need within you. The strength, the passion, the drive, they're already there. All you have to do is take the leap, burn your plan B, and go all in. When you do that, the world will open up for you in ways you never imagined. So, here I am today, standing tall, having gone through the fire, having walked through the storm. And I can tell you this, there is no turning back. I've made it. And you can too. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.